All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you consume the show. Big shout out to both our sponsors, Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, near Highmark Stadium, and also, of course, Imperial Pizza with two locations, one of which in the heart of South Buffalo at 1035 Aber Road. Friday audio podcast. On the video side, we are actually live here late on a Thursday night. And if you're watching on the video side, before I pull up my guests and we get cooking here, I did something that I rarely ever do on this podcast. I have a Buffalo Sabres hoodie on. Opening puck drop on Thursday night, I was like, you know what? I'm going to let my fandom out. I'm going to wear a hoodie on my show. I never do that shit, but decided to do it now. I will not be doing it again anytime soon. The Buffalo Sabres lose on home ice to open up the season 4-0. I am joined right now. He agreed to do this earlier in the day. He probably is regretting it now. My man, Chris Ostrander, 2 in the Box, Instigator Podcast. We're live on the video side, man. What is going on? Full of regret right now, man. What's up, dude? How you doing?
I've been better. I felt better about 2.5 hours ago, I'll tell you that much. I was like, all right, new season, couple injuries, but let's see how they do. And they got outshot for the first 10-15. It was bad. It was a bad start. And it didn't get much better.
It didn't. I felt good about this game. That's the craziest part about going into it. And obviously, we'll talk about the game. So for everybody who's starting to file in on the video side, thank you for joining. Audio Friday, like always. We're going to recap or give our thoughts on this Sabres season opener going into this game, the game itself, maybe a little bit of fallout from it potentially. We'll hit on all that. We will talk some Buffalo Bills later on in the show as well. They began preparations for Atlanta on Thursday, some injury notes, a couple questions that I'm going to have for Chris. So we'll definitely talk some Bills today. As far as this game, I mean, before the puck even dropped, a little bit of relative surprising news. I mean, I am not going to make up excuses for the Sabres. And I will say this too. You look at the score. If you didn't watch this game, it would just be easy to say, well, the Sabres got embarrassed. They lost 4-0. They can't even score a goal at home. They can't stop anybody. It was a one-sided, ugly shutout. That's not really the case. This was a very competitive game for nearly 56 minutes. I do want to say as well that two significant, and not to make excuses, but two significant players on this team did not play in this opener. Owen Power, who was sick, which I didn't know about until the game was starting. And Zach Benson, who apparently, I guess he took a puck to the face or something like that, Chris, at practice the other day. He's day-to-day, and he didn't play. So, I mean, in fairness, though, that's pretty key additions not in this lineup, right?
Yeah, for sure. Two of their smarter players. Power is just terrific in transition, zone exits in particular. And I think if you, especially the first 10-15 minutes of the first period, where they really felt to me like they were played on their heels. I don't remember the exact shot totals. It had to have been like 12-13 to 2 or 3 for a bit there. And it just, they couldn't get out of their zone. They looked overmatched. They were struggling in that respect, and that's an area that Power's really good in. And they definitely missed him there. And then just the impact he would have had on their pairs. You're running 2 deep pairs of Samuelson, Timmins, and Johnson and Bryson. That's not, no NHL team's going to be all that successful with those 2 guys. And then on the Benson front, I'm very interested to see if we learn any more about this injury, because he puck to the head or face or whatever it might have been. Usually it's just, it's at a cut, some stitches, whatever. Maybe there's some swelling, but it could also be a concussion, depending on how and where he got hit. And so does that mean he's out for a week? And it's not to say that they can't afford to lose Zach Benson, but that first line with Krebs was really toothless. They got their feet when they put Zucker up there, but you can see the trickle down effect the injuries have on this roster. And even just losing those 2 guys, 2 really important players in the grand scheme of things, was a big effective shift for them.
Because old friend and podcast regular Joe from Queens is in the chat, and which is weird because he didn't even follow the Sabres. I think he's just here to probably troll me. But I'll say something, an ongoing argument that Joe and I have every year when it comes to the Bills is how little an irrelevant training camp in the preseason is. Like things you see in training camp, things you see in the preseason in the world of Joe from Queens never translates to the regular season. It doesn't mean anything. I only say that because he's been right more than he's been wrong with a lot of guys. And I'm looking at Peyton Krebs in this game tonight, Chris. And I remember in the preseason, a couple games, I watched 2 or 3 preseason games. He was kind of moving up and down the lines, and everywhere he played, he looked good and he fit right in. So when I saw the lineup tonight, I'm like, all right, well, you know what? Not going to be a big drop off. Krebs could play with Tage and he could play with Josh Norris, who we're going to talk about in a minute. Wasn't really the case, though. Kind of to your point, a very toothless front line until they change it and put Zucker up there.
Yeah, I like Peyton Krebs a whole lot. I think he does a lot of things really well. All the stuff they talk about when it comes to being tougher to play against, like he exudes a lot of that, even though he's not a huge guy. But he's just out of place that high in the lineup. There was at least one preseason game that he played up there with them too.
Yeah.
When they were moving some guys around. I wish I could remember which game it was, but I remember watching that group thinking like, oh, this will be interesting to see how they work together. And then it just didn't work. So I was surprised they actually went back to the well there with Krebs on the top line again. It's just not a fit. He does something, like he does things well. I get why they did it. He is pretty decent at, digging pucks out, getting in the corners, getting a little the nose dirty a little bit, but just it didn't work tonight. And maybe if you gave him 5-6 games, maybe you'd feel a little bit differently about it, but they're not really in the position to be doing that to begin with. So
I got some really good comments, including a question from Joe from Queens specifically for you that we're going to get to here in just a few minutes. I want to say this. So I had Mike Harrington on the show yesterday, did our Sabres season preview and went over a bunch of things. And it's not like Mike was, uncovering rocks that we didn't know anything about, but he was talking about some really key important points to the success of the Sabres. And look, 81 games to go. But it was primarily about 3 things, and I kind of want to go over them all with you, not necessarily in order of importance. Let's start with a good point. Goaltending, make a save. I thought Lyon, and, I'm no goaltending whisperer. I don't know goaltenders or goaltending that well. It seemed to me like he sure played a good game. Again, you look at the box score at the end and you're going to see 4-0, but it wasn't like that to me. I thought he played really well, especially early on where it could have been 2-3-0 in the first period, the Rangers. I thought he played pretty well. Like this was more than an acceptable effort from a new Sabres goaltender. Are we on the same page, or did you see the game differently than I did?
No, he was terrific. Really, really good game from Alex Lyon, again, especially in the first. They needed him badly to hold them in it. I mean, first shot on goal of the game. Well, technically second, but first legitimate shot on goal of the game is Mika Zibanejad in the high slot on a one-timer. And he's moving right to left off the boards, passes off the boards, but Lyon's moving the same way. And, puck's coming back the other direction. Zibanejad shooting back to his left. Makes a really nice glove save. And he held him in it. He was really good in the first. The goal that Lafreniere scored was a really impressive high-skill play, net side jam. Not a lot of guys are going to be able to make that play of he's kind of getting pushed over, moving the wrong way, and he was able to pull the puck back in and then get his stick back out around the post to chip it in. Really nice play by him. Not the best by Jacob Bryson, but we can talk more about him a little bit more later if we want to. But no, I think Lyon was one of maybe 2 bright spots that I had in the game, and he probably wants that second goal back. That second goal kind of was the final straw, but you give an NHL player that much of an open look, there's a pretty good chance he's going to pick a spot. So, all things considered, even if you're kind of looking at the second goal a little sideways, he was certainly not the problem. And if anything, he was probably their first star, given how well he played.
Well, there's not a lot of good to talk about. And you said you had 2 bright spots. One of them we just talked about. What's the other bright spot?
Josh Stone, I thought, played a really nice game. You can see why people like him. High motor, finds himself in the right places. He's got a nose for the puck. I think there's some things to build on there with the middle of the lineup. Jack Quinn, not so good, but in terms of how things can grow and blossom here, I think you can feel pretty confident about what Josh Stone's going to bring on a nightly basis. good honest effort. And if he and Yuri Kulik find some magic, or if it's McLeod, whoever it ends up being, um, I was encouraged by his performance.
Another big issue coming into the season, which was a big detriment to this team last year, of course, was special teams. So I guess the good is the Rangers went 0 for 3 on the power play. Plenty of opportunities, but they didn't put a puck in the net on the power play. The bad, the Sabres went 0 for 4 on the power play. And again, I don't know. It looked a lot like it did last year to me, too. There was, a moment here, there once or twice, but all in all, I didn't think this was a very effective power play. It looked a little too artsy-fartsy for my liking, a little too cute, not enough pucks at the net. What would you think?
It just, I don't know, like you said, more of the same. Not a lot there that felt dangerous. And the Rangers did a pretty good job. I think the Rangers' kill was well structured
Hmm?
to affect the Sabres power play where it's most dangerous. And so they were really eliminating a lot of the passes through to whether it be Norris or Thompson. The Sabres had started to work this thing that I noticed in the preseason that I really liked, where they'd work the puck down the right wing to Zucker off the goal line or off the net side of the net. And, Zucker would have the option to either work it back up to Norris and then through to Dahlin, or work a little seam pass to Thompson on the back door. And the couple times that it worked in the preseason, Thompson did get stopped, but that's a play that was not in their bag last year. And so I do think there were a couple instances where they were trying to get that through, and whether it was that the Rangers had done a good job with their scout, or if it's just their structure, the passing lane wasn't there. And that then gets to more of the philosophical issues with this power play of not moving enough, not doing enough to affect the box and move penalty killers around. I think if you went back and watched all 4 power plays, you'd see very little movement from especially the Rangers forwards. The Rangers forwards could stay right at the top of the box, move their sticks and clear passing lanes very easily. And you're just not going to have a lot of success unless you're getting them off broken plays or just like superstar, individual efforts. So not a great start for the power play, especially in a game when you ultimately you're getting shut out, where special teams could have made the difference. If they get a goal on one of those first couple power plays and it's 1-1, I think you're talking about a much different game dynamic, and it didn't work out for him. It didn't look great, but I will say the penalty kill did look pretty good to me. I thought the kill did some nice things. Maybe 1 or 2 good looks for the Rangers overall, but generally speaking, at least the penalty kill held up its end of the bargain.
Now, I want to point out to everybody who's listening that we are live. The game ended maybe 15 minutes ago. As we're recording this right now, Lindy Ruff is in the process of speaking to reporters. I'll throw something out if we learn of anything. And the thing I am getting at right now, to me, which could be bigger than the game result itself, the big picture moment of this game, what we've talked about since the trade last season, throughout the offseason into this game. Maybe arguably the single biggest key for the Buffalo Sabres this season would be Josh Norris, your first line center, playing very well, and most importantly, staying healthy. Well, here we are, Chris. We are 1 game into this season. 1 game. And for 2.5 periods, I thought Josh Norris looked excellent. Had a couple good chances. He looked like he was a factor out there, okay? Sure enough, near the end of the game, later in the 3rd period, off of face-off, he goes down almost immediately, kind of grabbed out his left side. I don't know if it's a rib cage. I don't know if it's a shoulder. It looked like something in the left. He got to the bench slow, gingerly, did not, to my knowledge, he did not come back into the game. So now we are a game into the season, and we are talking about already a potential Josh Norris injury. You've been on the show with me plenty during this offseason. If we've talked about one thing probably 15, 20 times, it's been Josh Norris. And now we're sitting here, again, let's not speculate if it's anything significant or something very minor, but come on, man. Are we going through this already after 1 game, Chris?
I mean, we'll see what Ruff says. We'll see what comes out tomorrow in practice, or Friday in practice for those of you listening. But the replay was not encouraging.
No.
He loses the draw goes. He kind of falls forward a little bit, catches himself with both hands, and then immediately grabs at something. And I don't know. He's had shoulder issues in the past. Was he grabbing at his shoulder? Was it an oblique? Because the way he was sitting on the bench, he was kind of grabbing at his hip or his chest. Is a groin? Who knows? But it wasn't a play where he got thrown into the boards. It wasn't a play where he got hit in open ice. It was effectively a non-contact injury. And so,
Right.
that's
He said
that
upper
definitely
body
worries me.
injury. He did finish the game. That's the only thing Lindy Ruff said to give you a real-time update. Lindy Ruff said upper body injury, didn't finish the game. We watched the replay. You're right.
That's tough. That's tough because upper body. If we're just gonna go doomer here, and I don't blame anyone for doing so.
Because you're not.
Yeah, a guy who's had shoulder issues in the past. He had, Lord, what even held him out at the end of the last year? Who knows? Doesn't matter at this point. Like that's worrisome for sure. Very worrisome. And as you said, Pat, like he and Thompson were great in the preseason. Like that was a reason for hope. The way that they combined in the preseason, that was one of those things. I was like, okay, like if this carries over, that's going to be great.
For casual Sabres fans who are trying to get into the team, you're like, you know what? I haven't been a big fan, but I'm going to get into it now. I want to be a Sabres guy. I want to be a Sabres girl this year. Would you say that probably it would go Darlene, Tage, and then Norris in terms of important players that you cannot afford to lose? Like he's probably that third most important player on this team. If not third, he's right up there. I mean, this is your clear-cut number one center right now, which kind of leads to a follow-up question. Let's assume the worst, which I'm sorry, but this is Josh Norris, and I think that's very reasonable to speculate and do right now at this point. Let's just say he's out for, let's just call it a period of time. Maybe it's a week. Maybe it's 5 weeks. Who the hell knows? What does this team do at center? Is Tage got to go back to center already? I mean, how do they handle a Josh Norris injury? Which, I mean, if you're going into a season, you better be prepared to handle a potential Josh Norris injury because this happens all the goddamn time.
I would say if it's let's say it's a 4 to 6 injury, just not hoping for the best, not hoping for a season ender, but let's just say it's 4 to 6 weeks. I would slide Kulich back up because that Kulich Benson line with Thompson last year was really good. Really, really good. And so, and to the point where I would have entertained putting them back together to start the year. That's how much I liked from them. So that's what I would say just in the short term. That then doesn't resolve what you have to do in the middle of your lineup. That creates a lot of question marks in the middle just because, Ryan McLeod can stay where he is, but, is Peyton, we just talked about Peyton Krebs. Is he now your third center? Is Justin Danforth moving up? Are you recalling Noah Ostlund or Constant Helenius? You can start spiraling, Pat. It gets out of control fast. But in the small scale, give me Kulich with Benson and Thompson. I think they'd be pretty good together.
At what point do you say, no matter how talented a player is, you just can't trust him anymore? You can't count on him anymore. Is Josh Norris the Matt Milano of the Buffalo Sabres at this point, for an example?
He better not be because he hasn't been on the team for more than 8 months, and he's got 7 years left on his contract. He makes about $8 million. So, heaven forbid that he can't stay on the ice. Truly can't stay on the ice because, this isn't the NFL where the cap is kind of make believe, and you can hide injuries, you can hide salary for guys who can't stay healthy. You can shift them out, but at the NHL, I mean, aside from LTIR and some of the other options at your disposal that are few, they'd be largely stuck with him, which would for a team that you can't afford mistakes, you can't afford misses. That'd be a huge one.
Beyond the fact that not just hockey too, but football as well, because we talk plenty of football when you're on the show as well. But one of the many things I like about having you on is you're much more, even keel. Like you're not going to get too high over a game. You're not going to get too low. I'm the complete opposite. We're going to win the Stanley Cup, and we're never going to win a fucking game again.
It's 82 games, Pat.
That's kind of how I am, and I'm pretty honest about it right now. But let me ask you this: one game in, all right? I'm sitting here in my home studio. You're sitting in your home right now, and we're chatting 15 minutes after the Sabres home opener. We watched it. We both watched it on TV. Did you sense, and maybe the team just didn't give them enough reason to have energy, but did it almost feel to you like there was kind of almost it didn't feel like an opening night game inside that arena. To me, at least going by the broadcast anyway, it felt like a January home game to me. I'm not saying the fans sucked or anything like that, and if they did, it's not their fault. We've been through that. We've talked about that many times, but did you sense a little bit of a kind of a lack of just energy in the crowd, at least early on?
Yeah, I would say, based just going off the broadcast, the Sabres did a lot to try to pump up the fact that this was opening night with some of the features that they did in the pregame and things like that, and that was fine. I mean, they're kind of pregame fluffy features, but they did a good enough job with it, I thought. Duffer and Marty, I thought, did a nice job, but they always do. I think they're a real strength of the broadcast.
Sure.
Um, what I found interesting was twofold. Um, One very specific example as they were introducing the players, because of the way that they piped the sound in with Jay Moran, you heard all of the music that they were playing very loudly. And so you really couldn't hear the pop that the players were getting as they got introduced. Pardon me. Whereas, like, I watched the Oilers game the other night,
Yeah.
and like the McDavid introduction, you could hear the crowd. You could sense the excitement. So that certainly didn't help. But I would push back on you one thing, and I don't want to say that the fans are to blame, but the fans are not loud in that building, and they don't have a reason to cheer, and that's why. So the fans play a role in why it sounds so quiet, because everyone's sitting there like, okay, when are we turning back into pumpkins, right? So,
Sure.
and I think that's part of it, is that everyone's just so nervous about when's the other shoe going to drop. The team has given them no reason to have faith in what's going on the ice. And so you're walking in there, credit to them. They sold the place out. It seemed like they had about 5,000 Rangers fans in there, but they sold it out. But of all the Sabres fans in there, they're like, okay, hope we play well tonight. And, maybe I'll cheer if we can get one. And then, lo and behold, they get shut out. They don't get to roll out the new old goal song. And everyone left with 5 minutes left because the team looked like shit. So, I mean, it's just it's tales all the time, buddy.
Oh God, oh my Lord, dude. I mean, we talked for so many times on this show. You write all the time. You have your own podcast that you guys do, and it's like you wait for all this to get started, and then it comes, and what happens? The Sabres can't score one goal on their home ice, which, okay, and Josh Norris already after one game might be on the injury list potentially for let's just say for some time, all right? I don't want to say a week. I don't want to say a month. Who knows? But, oh my God, a home ice shutout with Josh Norris getting hurt in the first game. And just, again, we're live just minutes after the game. I'm still trying to process every single thing that's going on here. And it's funny, I swear to God, Chris, 3-4 times Josh Norris went down during the game, like there was a scrum near the Rangers goalie. I'm like, get up. I don't want him down. I don't want him down.
Yeah.
I kept saying, get him away.
Yeah.
And it's a face-off. And he goes in here. I was like, oh my God, it's Josh Norris. And he's down. Before we get to a break, let me get to a couple comments and / questions. Some of them are kind of takes. A couple of them are questions for you from some of the live peanut gallery here on the live side, which, by the way, I mean, we're well over 1,000 people watching on the live side. So thank you, everybody who's popping in. A lot of people are probably pissed off about this game. Joe from Queens, we'll start with him. And he says, Chris, how do you feel about the dumbass forced synergy with forcing Brandon Beane to watch a Sabres game with Kevin No Balls Adams? All right, well, you'll answer it in a much more proper manner than Joe asked. But yeah. Joe, Joe's saying, what do you think about Kevin Adams being there watching the game with Brandon Beane in his Bills hat? I'm like, get him away from Kevin Adams. But what's your little more professional thought there?
I think he might have rubbed off whatever the hell happened on Sunday night on the Sabres, but
Yes.
I know this is one of Joe's pet peeves, but they've been doing this for so many years now. It's ever since One Buffalo was a thing. I mean, I remember what was it? Maybe when Adams started, they did that really contrived phone call with Brandon Beane, like the advice phone call or whatever
Yeah.
it was, and it was or like an opener. And it was like in an empty office. Like it was very clear. It's like, oh, here, use the office that Larry Quinn used that no one's taken since he left. That one's our extra. It's just it's kind of hokey, but you got two major sports properties in the city. The same guy owns it, and it's not the worst thing in the world. Like I liked that when the Sabres are at Bills games, like when the Bills are at Sabres games, like Allen gets the biggest pop in that building for most of the winter if he's there. So I mean, it's fine with me overall. It's just they do it to say like, hey, look, these guys care after all. But
Yeah.
I mean, with Bean re-signing every guy that's played for him over the last 9 years, it's I'm not sure if I want him giving any advice to Adams at this point.
Exactly. Just wait. I'm still waiting
Yeah,
for Levi Wallace. We'll talk about corners in a
yeah.
few minutes
Carter
here,
Hunt's
but
gonna be back in here with that at this rate.
Ralph Wilson Sr. said Bean has been taking some heat this week. Thought he would look good sitting
Yeah,
next to Kevin Adams. All right, that's a little
exactly.
bit funny. All right, Joe Zadie said one game and Quinn still invisible. Our top 5 players, 25 shots and 0 to show for it, but they want millions. Power play still putrid. I mean, we covered most of that. Quick thought though on Jack Quinn. He looked.
I hated
Well,
him. I thought he was horrible.
yeah.
I thought he was
Okay.
horrible. There was a couple shifts there where it's more the same from him from last year. He carries the puck down the wing, tries to curl, and he loses it. It's just a black hole right now, and just not impacting the game. He's not influencing anything when he's on the ice, and he brings his line mates down as a result. I mean, I didn't watch him like I didn't like every time he was out. My sole focus wasn't on what he was doing away
Sure.
from the puck and on the puck. But when I watched him, I was very unimpressed. I mean, there was a shift on the one power just at the end of a power play where he had an opportunity to continue a cycle, and he turned it right over. And there was another one not too long after, working on the boards, totally outworked, didn't even look difficult for the defenseman, strips him of the puck, and the Rangers go the other way. Um, so Quinn, for a guy that it would be huge for them for him to recapture that form. Um, he was a real disappointment for me.
The Sabres report. I'm just looking at a tweet right now. Anyway, Josh Norris has played 4 regular season games for the Sabres. Josh Norris has only finished the game in 2 of those 4. That's not promising, man. It's not promising at all. I got one more for Joe before we get to a break. I think this is a fair question, actually, to ask you. He says, Chris, it's only one game, but let's just say the Sabres drought reaches 15. Or is it 14? It'll be 15, answer his
15.
first part. Whatever.
Yeah.
He says, how much do you think Lindy's legacy could be tarnished? So, if the Sabres miss the playoffs this year, this is the second year of a 2-year contract, he's done coaching after this, and whatever, they're near the bottom. They don't make the playoffs again. In your estimation, would his coaching tenure, his legacy in Buffalo, be tarnished? Do you think?
I think. I mean, my hot take is that it was tarnished before they fired him the first time. They
Okay.
let him and Regier stick around way too long. He didn't have any answers for that team down the stretch those last few years. And then of course and when he got fired, they were entering a rebuild, but he probably needed to go 2 years before that, quite frankly, if not longer. They didn't get past the first round after '07. They didn't do it. They missed the playoffs a number of times, and then when they made the playoffs, they got dispatched by Boston and Philly. So, I mean, the latter half of his time, the first time around, wasn't sterling by any means. And then, I mean, his time with the Devils and Stars was
Mm-hmm.
fine. He had a really good season. A few years back there with the Devils, they were great, and they just couldn't get over the hump. But they came back. I think it was the next year, if I'm not mistaken, and they couldn't get anything going. It speaks volumes to me that at one point this fall, in the fall, as 32 Thoughts got back up and running in the preseason, they talked about Sheldon Keefe and going into Jersey and how much he changed their perception and attitude about how they had to play. And effectively saying like, wow, like Lindy was so easy on us. It's different having a guy who's this hard on us now. And Lindy Ruff is brought in here to bring about accountability and make them be harder to play against and all this. And it's, if anything, it's Club Lindy at this point. So, if this season goes badly, if tonight is a harbinger of doom, yeah, to me his legacy will be even more tarnished than, in my opinion, it already is, because I mean, last year they regressed. They brought him in and
Yeah.
they were worse last year. They were worse at least in the standings, right? You can argue whether or not they improved in certain areas, but they were worse. And so if they miss again and he doesn't get his contract renewed, which I wouldn't expect him to, yeah, like it's a black eye on a fan favorite. Like I won't deny he's a fan favorite, but um, yeah, I would agree. I think it would be. I think for sure it would tarnish his legacy.
Jay, yes, sir, 17 said one game in, and I'm thinking going to be a long season. Man, watching the Sabres since 1973. This is bad. Yeah, it's one game. It is one game. I think it's the Josh Norris injury bothers me 10 times more than the 4-0 result, which to me, it was basically a 2-0 game, and then the end happened or whatever. You know what I mean? Just the offense couldn't get going. The goaltending was good. It's the Josh Norris injury that's going to linger with me. And a couple of roster decisions. Like we talked about Quinn. He's a top 9 forward on this team right now. And there was some speculation. I remember conversations you and I have had on this show where maybe they get rid of Quinn and maybe they don't bring back Quinn. They ended up re-signing him for 2 years. So we'll see how that plays out. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll kind of clean up a few things with that. And then I want to spend the rest of the show talking about the Buffalo Bills. So we'll literally be right back. On the video side, 5 seconds. All right, I'm back here with Chris Ostrander. We have had live reaction to the Buffalo Sabres opening up their season with a 4-0, quite frankly, pretty embarrassing home loss to the New York Rangers, a game where Josh Norris left in the third period. And when pressed, by the way, in real time, again, we're doing this right after the game, when Lindy Ruff was pressed for a little bit of information about him, his quote was, he didn't finish the game, so I'm going to say that's not a good sign. That's all Lindy has added about Josh Norris. Chris, let me ask you this before we switch to the Bills. One game, and again, I asked Harrington yesterday and didn't really get a good answer other than just the leash is going to be short, obviously. But how much patience do you think Terry Pegula will have with Kevin Adams? Listen, you can't make the playoffs in October. You can't make the playoffs in November. This has been a talking point for a while on this show. But you can miss the playoffs in October and November. The Sabres last year were 1-4-1 to start through their first 6 games. Maybe they can rebound on Saturday in Boston and we'll feel a lot better about this team than we do right now in this moment. But that leash, is it going to be short for you when it comes to Kevin Adams? Because, look, Josh Norris is your number 1 center, and he's got an injury history, and it didn't seem to be a great backup plan in place because of that. You traded scoring to get defense. Now, I'm not going to blame Adams for Kessler being hurt right now, of course, but you got that. The decision with Quinn, other decisions as well. Is there going to be a very short leash when it comes to Kevin Adams, or do you think almost for sure he'll get to finish this season out no matter what?
I think Terry Pegula's track record would indicate that he'll finish the season. He has not been quick to fire people in season, especially recently. Early in the tenure of the ownership, when things were still, hey, we're going to spend in free agency, we're going to wheel and deal. We're big boys on the block, a little different. And these last few years, it's been a question that I've asked: is like, what's your standard? What's the organizational standard? Because the St. Louis Blues fired their coach last year to hire Montgomery with like a fine record. Like they weren't good, but they weren't bad either. But
Right.
A good coach came available and they said, no, he's going to make us better. We're going to go get him. And so I would assume that Terry Pagula would be very happy to let all of these guys finish their contracts and go on into the sunset in the spring. And then reset, you hire a new GM, whatever it may be. Probably Kekalainen, but um, maybe there'll be a search, who knows? But like that's my read. I will say, like it should be noted, like no Kesselring, no Power, no Benson,
Yeah.
three key pieces, right? So as much as that loss stings, as much as their offense was toothless, a lot of outside shots, there's we got to see a little bit what comes around, whether it be Saturday or on Monday, even to set, depending on is it just like a flu bug with Power and he's going to be fine by Monday? Is Benson does Benson need swelling to go down so we
I
can
have
start
an update
gauge?
on him. I have
Like,
a real-time
oh, let's
breaking
hear it.
news kind of update on Zach Benson. Just found out literally while you were talking seconds ago during Lindy Ruff's presser. Head coach Lindy Ruff says Zach Benson spent the night watching the game in the hospital. Says that the cut he suffered on his face during practice yesterday turned into something more. So he
You got like a
wasn't even,
another
yeah.
staph infection for the Sabres. Just what we wanted to hear. 20th anniversary of the 05-06 season. Great.
This is crazy, man. This team, I mean, Kesselring's hurt already. Power's sick. Banks is messed up. And
Hey,
Norris is hurt.
That happened. I mean, that's what happened to Charlie McAvoy in the Four Nations. He had a cut on his shoulder. They thought they treated it, and then it went like he didn't have like septic shock, but he had to go to the hospital because he had such a bad infection. It just whatever blossomed. That's crazy though. Like that's the Sabres' luck right there in a nutshell.
Yeah,
So maybe we don't see Zach Benson on Saturday then.
right.
TBD, but I will point that out. I think, and that's why I'm trying to reserve some judgment here until I can see the whole roster. But I mean, gee, like their backup goalie never played an NHL game. Like a lot of weird stuff going on here already. A lot of weird stuff.
I feel like right now, you know those gifs where the guy's smiling and drinking the bleach and then smiling or pretending like he's going to throw
Yeah.
himself off the rail, but he's smiling. And I got a Sabres jersey on, so I literally feel like that right now. To put a bow on the Sabres for this episode anyway, again, the loss means zero to me. Am I disappointed that they couldn't score a goal, that they went 0 for 4 in the power play, that some other things didn't click? Of course I am. And that did it on home ice? Sure. Okay, but I am encouraged by the goaltending. Lions stopped 29 to 32 shots, and I thought he was really good early on when it could have gotten away from him. So the goaltending was good. I thought there were some positive signs in this game. You mentioned Doan. I agree with you. I thought he was a bright spot. I feel like the offense would be fine. And again, give me Power back in the lineup. Get Kesselring back in the lineup. Get Benson back in the lineup. And I'll feel pretty good. To me, the dark cloud over this entire game is Josh Norris. If Josh Norris is going to miss, if it's a chunk injury and he's going to miss a long time, I think the Buffalo Sabres are legitimately in trouble after just one game if he's going to be out for an extended period of time. And that's what concerns me. Real quick, I forgot to ask you this, and I meant to ask you this at the very beginning. I'll plug this. So Tuesday night, you got together with some of the hockey guys, didn't you? At Good Bar,
Yeah,
you had
it was awesome,
a trivia contest, raised some money. I saw a photo.
Mhm.
Chad Dominicis was there, Matt Fairburn, Chris Baker, Duffer was in the house, a couple other guys as well. Yourself, Chad, Anthony. What was that all about?
So
I
the
gotta ask you.
guys, so Brendan and Taylor from Straight Up Sabres or Sabres podcast,
Mhm.
they do like weekly or monthly trivia contests or trivia nights at Good Bar. It's like Buffalo sports trivia, so they do Bills and Sabres.
Okay.
And I've been on their show a few times. We've collaborated both ways, and they do a thing on their show like they'll do a trivia segment, which is cool. But they reached out towards the end of the summer and said, "Hey, we're putting this thing together at Good Bar. It's in October, right near the opener. Would you guys want to participate?" So it was us, yeah, Chad and Anthony from Expected Buffalo, Chris Baker and Matt Fairburn from the Baker Fairburn Show, and then Duffer and then Jordan LeBarber from the Sabres. And it was just a 4-team trivia contest. Duffer and Jordan brought home the prize. We couldn't catch them. We finished second.
Okay.
We finished 2 off the pace. We just couldn't, like, we had a couple trades there where like we had caught up, but then they'd get an answer we'd miss. But it was cool, like whiteboard trivia. So everyone had a pretty good shot at it. You didn't have to like worry about buzzing in or anything like that. So just like pure points, and they had a really good. It was 6 rounds. It was great. It was a really really fun night. Raised some money for Hashix Heroes. I really hope they do it again. I hope the Sabres play well enough that people would want to come out to it. get an even bigger crowd than we had on Tuesday because it was a really good time. It was for a good cause, and I mean, I had a blast with it. It was a great time. So
I love hearing
yeah.
about those kinds of things. You raise some money, you have a good time. People come out, get to hang out, and spend some time with your peers. Your colleagues.
Hmm.
People. It's not always competition. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just a community of content creators, kind of spending time together, and I really like that. And yeah, to your point, listen, I just want the Sabres to be. I want them to be relevant enough that they're not a joke. I want to be able to talk Sabres hockey and not, immediately start laughing or just talking about how bad they suck and just all this other shit, man. And uh, I can't stop thinking about Josh Norris. I can't. And we gotta move on here. I do want to talk about the Bills for a few minutes. So they took to the practice field on Thursday, a day later because they play on Monday night. In terms of injury news, no Matt Milano. He's going to be week to week. I'm not even surprised about that anymore. I might ask you a Matt question in a few minutes. No TJ Sanders again with the knee injury. I, you know, I don't. There's a good chance. Ed Oliver's the big one. I should probably point that out. He's still limited, but the video clips that I've seen and the people that I've talked to who covered the team, a few people anyway, he's trending towards playing on Monday. Like he was it was a coin flip, and they were going to be a little more cautious last week against the Patriots. But I would say, barring a setback, he's trending towards being able to play so far on Monday. My point was this: Landon Jackson played last week, but he was inactive the first 4 games. TJ Sanders, he's hurt now. You may not see him on the field again until there's another injury because they play with 4 defensive tackles. If Ed's back and you got DaQuan Jones, then you got Deion Walker, who has outplayed TJ Sanders, and you got Larry Ogunjobi, who's now going to be back after this game from the suspension. TJ Sanders, Chris, may join that inactive list. For fans, how frustrating is that going to be, and how loud are they going to be on social media when you got your second round and your third round pick, who both of them basically are doing nothing? Like Landon Jackson has done a thing to help this team this year. TJ Sanders, ditto. And these guys might not even be dressing for a while until there's an injury, because now Michael Hoyt is coming back too after the suspension. So Landon Jackson will go right back to being inactive unless there's injuries. Is that a little bit frustrating for you? Or are you the principal? Because I kind of am. It's like you put too much stock into a rookie in his rookie year and not the overall projection, of the pick in its totality. It's all about the first season only. You know what I mean? But it is frustrating to have 2 day 2 picks who are doing nothing to help this football team right now.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way. Maybe it's just because I'm really focused on the present, right?
Sure.
Every day that Josh Allen is here is a day to try to be winning a Super Bowl, right? So like you want them to be doing everything in their power to to get the first seed, to to break this title drought, right? So when it comes to even Maxwell Harrison, obviously somewhat out of their control with the injury, of course, but your first 3 picks not impacting your roster, and
Yeah.
this being something of a trend over the last number of drafts. I mean, I know Rousseau, he earned his contract. He's been quiet, but he was good enough to get a contract. Um, but Kyer Elam, Boogie Basham, I mean, Epenesa's fine. But again, like you don't have a lot of game breakers, and I realize they're not picking 5th; they're picking 25th or later. But
Yeah.
it's still hard when you're looking at the draft capital that they're spending, and very little of it is impactful, and especially for a team that has, from what I would gather and what I feel, put a lot of their eggs into the defensive basket, right?
Sure.
They want, the way that we beat the Chiefs is that we stop them. The way that the Eagles beat the Chiefs is with pass rush and they, ate them alive on defense. So we're going to try to emulate that. And they keep investing off-season signings, Joey Bosa, draft picks into these key positions on defense, and they have so little to show for it. Is there a single position on this defense right now after Sunday, at least, certainly, where that you would look at and be like, oh no, that's a position of strength? I mean, it's maybe D tackle. If everyone's healthy, probably D tackle. I like Walker. I like Jones enough. Oliver, he flashed in week 1,
Sure.
but like it's like that's frustrating. That's where I start pulling my hair out. It's like, Jesus, like all you talk about is strengthen on defense. I feel like I'm talking about the Sabres. Um, like Joey Bosa has driven me crazy this year, and I was at the game Sunday, so I didn't get I feel like I would have seen more on TV. And I know we got to May a couple times. I know he had a better game than he's had previous weeks, but like even watching out, like how many more 30-year-old defensive ends are we going to sign that are you know with very little tread on the tire?
Yeah.
It's I don't know. It's that's where I get frustrated from the defensive side of the ball, certainly.
Um, it's a great point, and I think your question is a very valid one. If you look at this team right now and you said, all right, well, on defense, is there a true position of strength? I would say no, but I still have confidence in the defensive line. I think Ed Oliver coming back, I think the defensive tackle unit is significantly different. Put it this way, Ed Oliver's in and Zion Loger, Fedarian Mathis out. That's a big, that's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you get Oliver back. I do like Michael Hoyt, okay? I will say this. Greg Rizzo finally showed up. He played really good, I thought, against the Patriots. But Ebenezer has been all right. Joey Bosa is maddening, like you said. He's making impactful plays, but man, oh man, is he missing assignment after assignment. He's missing tackles, but he's been pressuring the quarterback. But I still feel good about the front four. I don't feel very good about the linebackers at all right now. When Milano consistently injured, Bernard's a very up and down player. He makes a great play. He gets swallowed up in the running game. He gets lost in pass assignments a lot. I like Shaq Thompson, but he's old, and is he going to break down? Dorian Williams is he's physically gifted, but he's kind of mistake prone. You know what I mean? Last year, Chris, it was DeMar Hamlin stinks. This year, guess what it is now? Taylor Rapp stinks. It's like that safety position, and Trey White stinks too,
Yeah.
according to everybody else in the world here. Kind of my point too with corner. I think they're in a very tricky position with corner right now. It really sucks that Dorian Straw got hurt with the neck because clearly the Bills were trending towards Dorian Straw taking that spot from Trey White. I know Sean McDermott said all the right things in the Saints game. I want to give my young guy some reps, and he was playing some series, and Trey got benched for a couple series. That was him getting more game reps and getting ready to take that job. And then he gets hurt, and he already got put on IR, and it's a neck. So he might not play again this season. That's incredibly realistic for that to happen. So now you got Max Hairston, who the practice window did not open for this week. But in fairness, and Joe Marino pointed this out first, so I got to make sure I credit him because he's 100% right. It'd be stupid to open that window up this week because they don't practice next week. They're on a bye, and they literally aren't going to practice. So that would be a waste. You would open it up after, when they get back against Carolina. If the practice window's not open for Max Hairston in that Carolina week, 2 weeks from now, it's time to start wondering if this guy's going to play this season. So, and even if he does, he has missed all of the preseason, all the regular season, half a training camp. Sean McDermott's not a typical guy who's going to trust guys who've missed all that time. So, I don't know. What do you do right now, though, if you're at CB2? Do you keep going? Trey White got exposed last week, basically. I feel like they've been able to hide him a little bit. He didn't play the first game. Teams haven't really tested him because they've just had so much success running on the Bills that they haven't really thrown on him much. Well, Trey White kind of got exposed a little bit. He got put in a blender a few times against the Patriots. I think that's the start of, you're going to see a lot more of that. Do you trust Trey White? Right now, you only got Ingram and Dane Jackson on the practice squad behind him. What are the Bills going to do? You want to trade or you got to sign somebody. I don't know, has Gilmore got anything left? I have no idea. But the thing is, if you're going to trade for somebody, it's basically got to be a one-year deal because Max Hairston and Dorian Strong are the future of the position. You're not going to, trade for a guy who's still got 3 years left on a contract when you got Benford, Strong, and Max Hairston, in the mix. So it's a really tricky position. What do you think they should or will do at corner? Do you think they're just going to roll with Trey and hope that Max can play later in the year if needed? I'm at a loss right now.
I think that's their only option. Kind of to your point. I mean, even just circle back to what I said. Like, if you're going to do everything you can to get a title, do you, throw caution to the wind and say, hey, we're going to go get a guy who's got 3-4 years left just because we know we can play and we don't care. We'll figure it out next year. We'll figure it out in the spring because we got to get a title. You know, wouldn't hurt to go that far, quite frankly. But I think your point's probably the right one, and probably the more logical approach. And so, yeah, like, do you start filtering Ingram? And I like Ingram. He's long. He's got a big wingspan. Like, I like some of the things he could do. And like, do they just say like, oh, we're gonna run zone. We're gonna try to hide these guys best we can. I don't know. Like, I mean, that's what Trey White was good at, right? Like, he wasn't a great lockdown corner before all those injuries to begin
Right.
with, right? Like, so maybe that's part of the secret sauce is they gotta lean more into the zone scheme than a man scheme. The safeties aren't good either, man. Like, what the hell? Like,
Listen,
yeah,
I think Taylor Rapp's a bigger issue than Trey White right now. I truly, I think Taylor Rapp is a not a good football player. The problem is DeMar Hamlin's no better. But, and it's funny for me to say this, his dad wanted to fight me last year and all that other crap with DeMar, but I'd rather have DeMar Hamlin out there at this point than Taylor Rapp because they're both unathletic, they're both slow, but the difference is DeMar Hamlin can tackle. Taylor Rapp is missing tackles all over the place, man. And he's overly aggressive at times, that friendly fire thing. I'm almost at a point where if you're not going to play Jordan Hancock, which that's what I want to see, but if you're not going to do that, which is, again, he's not going to Jordan Hancock. The safety position has been borderline garbage right now, and he's still not playing. He's not even activating him right now. And I think he played great in the preseason. You think he's going to have Max Harrison come rolling in and be a starter when he has not played football in 3 months? It's not going to happen. I'm telling you. By the way, did you get a chuckle last week when you saw the tweet or whatever that the Bills signed Braylon Spector to the practice squad? Did
I
that
had
bring
to tweet
bring a
some
smile to your
numbers on
face?
that. I like threw joking. You got the Bills Mafia bump on a tweet. I was like, oh, Brandon Beane knows 7 phone numbers.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He does. He knows like 7 phone numbers.
That's why when you
is
say
Levi
Gilmore
Wallace
first,
one
I
of
started
them?
laughing. Yeah, seriously.
I do want to bring up one more point. Then we're gonna bounce. It's getting late. I appreciate your time, but we kind of hit on the draft for this year, and this is a point I'll have a little more in-depth discussion on Sunday night show with Joe from Queens. He doesn't really know this yet, but we're gonna spend some time talking about the rookie classes. You said every game with Josh Allen is just so important, and typically you draft rookies with the future in mind. It's not necessarily about that year. It's about the 3 or 4 years after that. And I do think that's a fair school of thought. But you look at these last 2 draft classes, Chris, and we'll go back to say 2 years ago. This class should be helping more than it does. Keon Coleman, the first pick, he has flashed. He has shown you moments. He was great in the Ravens game, 8 catches for $112. And then he really hasn't done much. He has a play or two, some here and there. He's had a couple drops. He got benched for the first series Sunday. He had a critical fumble, which ended up costing them plenty in a 3-point loss in that game. He's been, I'd say, considering he was their first pick, and this is his second year, I'd say he's been average. I don't think he's been anything more than average right now for the Bills. Cole Bishop is out there. They're desperately, they want him to be a good starter. He's been okay, I guess. After that, from last year's class, Dwayne Carter's already out for the year. Dwayne Carter was going to be the 4th or 5th defensive tackle before he tore his Achilles. So he wasn't going to have a big role on this team anyway in his second year. Ray Davis is giving about much production to the Bills as you or I would right now if we were RB3 on this team. I mean, seriously, the regression has been remarkable with Ray Davis. SVP, a backup center. Olafoshio's not even on the team anymore. Javon Sullivan is nothing more than a special teams guy right now. Tylen Grable has been on IR. That's 2 years ago. Then you looked at this year's class. Max Harrison, of course, is hurt. TJ Sanders is hurt now, and he was completely ineffective the first 3 games that he played before he got hurt. Landon Jackson has only dressed once. Dan Walker's been great for being a 4th-round rookie. Jackson Hollis has been a nice find for being a 5th-round rookie. Hancock's not playing. Lunt's not playing. That's not a lot of help from your rookies these last 2 classes when you are right now the Super Bowl favorite. Like, the Bills are literally the Super Bowl favorite right now. But you look, there's not a lot of first and second year players that are really doing a lot to help this football team, Chris.
No, and I think, and I got to give credit to Dalton Kincaid because he was the guy that you and I talked about on this show in the
Sure.
spring. Like, oh, like what are they going to get from like what's he going to give him, right? And he's been awesome. He's been unbelievable. So like, nice to see him pop this year, healthy, right? Um, but I think it's like for me, it just speaks to like you don't have a lot of game breakers. You got two, let's say three. Let's count Kincaid,
Mhm.
because I think he's got. I think he might have. He could have something special, right? If he keeps the way he
Definitely.
like the way he looked Sunday, the way he's played. Even like the touchdown he had against the Saints, where I think it was his only catch of the game, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. It
But
was a
like
big
still, like
one.
yeah, great play, and
Yeah.
if they get the ball in his hands, he seems to make plays. Don't love the tunnel screens, but that's for another day. Um, like they don't have a lot of guys who are game breakers. So like you got Cook, you got Kincaid, and of course you got Allen, right? Shakir's a really, really nice piece. I feel like he's been really underutilized this year for what it's worth. But then I look elsewhere, and you can look up and down their draft class, just like you went through it, Pat. Like they don't have any game breakers on D. Like it's the Hall of Very Good on that defense. Like
That might
Benford's
be generous. I'd say
right,
Hall of
yeah,
Good.
yeah. Like Benford's a good player.
Yeah.
Bernard's good player, but like it's not terrific.
Yeah.
It's not terrific at all. And so like I just you know not that I think they should just throw their draft picks away and try to trade their way to wins, but you know it would be nice if they could get a shorter term win here. Let's just use TJ Sanders as the example. Obviously, he's a little banged up now, but how great would it have been if he and Walker could have flashed the way Walker has so far? How much better do you feel about that defensive interior? You know what I
Sure.
mean? But Sanders has been kind of a ghost.
Yeah. And look, I mean, Keon Coleman, how much better would this offense be if he looked like he did against Baltimore more than just the way he looked against Baltimore? Again, a couple bad drops, just not a lot of opportunity. I'm waiting for Josh Palmer to do more. Curtis Samuel's back. I'd like to see more from him. Sometimes it's easy to forget this team is 4-1 because I don't know, maybe just I'm thinking about the Sabres too much and I'm getting all gloomy and doomy and shit. But yeah, I'm not down on the Bills. Let's just be clear about that. But some things definitely need to break their way. I think this is a big test. Honestly, going back 3 weeks or so, I had the Bills losing one game before the bye, and it was against Atlanta. So I had them beating New England. So go and beat Atlanta. It'll make up for the New England game. You go into the bye feeling good. But anyway, all right, let's call it a wrap on this one. I feel like we've run out of things to talk about. To me, it's all about Josh Norris, Chris. We're going to wake up tomorrow. I don't know whether we're going to hear more. Maybe by Saturday, I think when they play Boston, we'll know more about Josh Norris. But would you agree that this is probably, if it's a longer-term injury to Josh Norris, it's not too early to say the Sabres are in trouble already? I guess that's my last question for you.
I'm not that far on it, but it's not great, is it? I like. I don't know. It's just hard to say without knowing what this is going to be. It didn't look good. It didn't look good, and it's one thing to finish the last 15 games of the year, whatever it was, post deadline in a dead season
Yeah,
without a number one center.
yeah,
To try to play 81 without one would be difficult.
100%.
um, and so I think it'd be fun if Gavin McKenna played for the Sabres, but I don't need to do 81 games of waiting to see for the first pick. I
I
don't
can't.
need to
Oh
do
my
that.
God, I never thought of that from that angle. Don't
I don't.
put that thought in my
Yeah, I
head,
don't need to
man.
do that.
No, 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 no,
I
no.
did watch his debut last weekend, but
Yeah,
yeah, oh geez, it's just so hard. Like you got so many guys missing. I mean, starting goalie, top four defense, two top four defensemen, top six winger, and now is your top center out. Like that's nuts. That's
yeah.
insane to lose that many guys before the season starts.
It's
Like
crazy,
they
man.
gotta sage that arena, man. I don't know what the hell's going on there. Like it's brutal. So like I don't know. You talked me into it. Yeah, like if Norris is out longer term, like yeah, they're in a lot of trouble because they
100%.
need they need the goals. If he's healthy, if he gives you 75 games, give him a 7-game window to miss. Gives you 75 games, he gives you 25, 28 goals. Like, that's pretty solid. That covers Paterka, you know?
Sure.
And to lose that, like, they can't. I don't think they can refill those goals. They
No,
might be able to weather some of the storm, but not that.
no, and it trickles down because now you got Kulik on the second line instead of having to come up and play on the first line. So it affects a lot. We'll see what happens. Anyway, make sure you follow Chris on Twitter at 2_ITB. Or I'm sorry, at 2ITB_Buffalo. I'll get it right one of these days. 2 in the box. Check out the blog, the podcast, Instigator Podcast. I'll put all that stuff in the show notes too, man. I appreciate you jumping on live. Sabres opener to come on this slate. Big ass crowd too here on the live side. So I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks a lot.
All right, guys, I'll be back Sunday night. Joe from Queens will be with me live. We'll preview Bills, Falcons, and get into plenty more. Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.